Hello, everyone, and welcome to Full Time, where we take you around the world of soccer locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally. Full Time is presented by the Game Sports Podcast and powered by 91 Network. You are listening to Season 5, Episode 2 of Full Time. I'm your host, Daniel Scarpino, and with me is our co host, Gitano Gallo. Before we begin today's show, Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. With their 2 locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, you can download and access the Pizza Portal app so you can enjoy a delicious hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. Remind our listeners that recordings of Full Time occur weekly or bi-weekly, and uploads to all of our platforms for public viewing and listening will occur weekly or bi-weekly as well. Folks, it is a pleasure to welcome you back to Full Time, where we get to talk about the sport that connects us all. G, how are you doing on this Monday evening, my friend?
I'm doing well, Scarps. Long day at work, but kind of grinded through it to get here. So I'm very excited to get this episode. How are you doing?
I'm tired, I'm sore, and all of that. But apart from that, I'm doing so good because we get to record this show here today, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. And we're also going to talk about why I'm so tired and sore here in a little bit. But in today's show, what we are going to take a look at is some news in the world of football pertaining to the Olympics. We'll highlight Europe's Big Five as we preview the upcoming season. We'll take a look at the summer transfer market, and we'll look at local, regional, and national soccer. As always, if anyone would like to listen to our previous content, please check us out at Full Time on the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network. And without further ado, Gaetano, and to everyone who has taken the time to tune in here today, let's kick off. We get today's show started by taking a look at some news in the world of football. The Olympics have just concluded, and that, of course, means that champions have been determined, and all the events pertaining to soccer at the Olympics have wrapped up also. I'm going to pass it over to you, my friend, Gitano, and you're going to give us, of course, all the insight as to how things finished up on both sides of the Olympics for men's and women's soccer.
Yeah, so on the men's side, it's funny, we talk about how this was a U23 tournament, and it kind of speaks to the depth of both of these nations that Spain and France still ended up in the final, with a lot of names that we actually would recognize in the 11. Sergio Gomez, who just left City this summer, started for Spain and played well. Michael Olise, Alexander Lacazette, your former Arsenal player. But at the end of the day, it was Spain winning 5-3 after extra time. A 93rd-minute penalty from Mateta for France equalized. But unfortunately, Spain came back, scored those 2 goals in extra time to win it. Phenomenal tournament. I thought, you see the youngsters on display, at this level, kind of what they're capable of. I thought it was just fantastic. And Spain just kind of continuing their dominance of world football at every level. The only level they did not dominate, though, was in the women's side, where they actually lost in the semifinals to Brazil, who went on to lose, unfortunately, to the United States in the final 1-0. Unfortunate to see Marta end her international career with no major tournaments won for Brazil. But this U.S. team led by Emma Hayes were fantastic this entire tournament. Kind of a sort of a new era for them, leaving out big names like Alex Morgan. Turning the page for this new chapter, younger group. They're scary good. We talk about Canada. Canada's got a very good team. The U.S. has a lot of star power. They're just unbelievable front to back. Led mostly by Trinity Rodman and Mal Swanson, who actually got the winning gold medal goal. They were just fantastic. And unfortunately, Brazil just didn't have an answer for them in this game. But yeah, I was unfortunate to see Canada go out in the quarters to Germany, losing a penalty shootout. But outside of that, kind of disappointment. I thought this tournament was fantastic. Again, a lot of the top teams doing what they do, which, we always like seeing a Cinderella run. But at the same time, it's also really nice seeing the best of the best playing at that level, not kind of slipping up in those games. So overall, on both sides of the bracket, I thought this was one of the best kind of sets of Olympic tournaments that we've ever seen.
Yeah, and you know what? I have to agree with you there for sure. The way that things had started out in the Olympics for more than one reason on both sides, men's and women's. I thought, this is not going to be good. In fact, I thought it could have actually been a bit of a disaster. But the way that it turned out, particularly in all the knockout rounds, was really cool to watch. I really, really enjoyed it. I felt that Canada against Germany didn't do themselves any favors, on the women's side. They should have put chances away on so many occasions, lost in penalties, but that's kind of way that the ball rolls, of course. And it was nice to see what happened on the men's, Spain being as dominant as they possibly could be. And of course, Emma Hayes with the United States, and she put out a very powerful press conference, we'll call it, saying, "I'm a winner and I coach winners." So that wraps up Olympic soccer, and thank you for that, for highlighting all that information for us. Even though it was short-lived in terms of the Olympics, it was fun to watch, and unfortunately Canada didn't do as good as we had hoped, but as we say, there's always 2028, right?
Exactly. It's all building blocks to the next one if you don't win it.
That's exactly it. And as we wrap up Olympic soccer, we get ready for what the large majority of the world of soccer is waiting for, and that is the domestic seasons to kick off, specifically, of course, with Europe's Big Five. Gitano, we are on the verge of having another amazing season starting up here all across Europe. How exciting can fans be for what is expected to be another fantastic season?
It's funny that these next couple of weeks, not that it's not exciting to see the teams back, but you still have a lot of players, returning from international duty. Squads won't kind of be, at full capacity quite yet. But even at that, if you told me that City was starting this weekend with, an 11 of academy players, like, I'm still going to be glued to the TV, going to be so excited to watch it. It's like Christmas morning. Like, it's just the best time of year, like building up to it. The transfers in and out, just all that excitement, like finally kind of culminating with the start of the season. It's great.
It really is. And before, I know we don't have it in our program here, but you did just mention your Manchester City there. They did win the Community Shield over United, 1-1, but 7-6 on penalty kicks. So congratulations for that. You must be delighted that you got to start the season on the front foot, if you will.
Yeah, fantastic. I thought Oscar Bob was ridiculously good. Like, the kid is going to be a superstar. It was hilarious watching Ederson take a penalty, considering Pep hasn't, for years, quick side note, for years, Ederson has said he wants to take penalties. He's really good at them. Everyone in the squad says he's one of the best at it. So he's now taken two, one against United in the Community Shield final. The other one was against Real Madrid in the knockout stage of the Champions League. So, like, it's nice to see that Pep is finally trusting him with it, because he's really good at them. Beating United, I don't care if it's like the little kids, like the U8s, like the men, women, Community Shield. I don't care. I always want to beat United.
Of course you do. That's your rival, and I totally understand that. Ederson, there are reports coming out today that he is in fact going to stay. I know that isn't, we're on the summer transfer market section of our show, but I thought I'd also mention that because there was rumors that he might go to Saudi, but he is in fact staying. So that's got to be another thumbs up for you. Yes.
Oh, big old thumbs up for Ederson. That's basically like having a signing, him staying, because he is, and I will die on this hill, the best keeper in the world. Super excited that he is staying.
That's awesome. And what we're going to do right now is we are going to preview each of Europe's Big Five leagues, and we're going to start things off not looking at the Premier League. We're going to save kind of the best for last, but we are going to start off by looking at La Liga. Gitano, it was Real Madrid who ended up winning the league last year in Spain's top flight. Girona, as we all remember, made that historic push for the title, but in the end did fall short. Barcelona found a resurgence in the back half of the season, and then it was a battle for the rest of the European places, which was highly competitive. So with everything we witnessed last year, the question becomes, what can we expect this year in La Liga, and who will win it?
So like the easy answer is Real Madrid. They had Kylian Mbappe. They were already one of the best teams in Europe last year. It just feels cheap to say them. So I'm actually going to go with Atletico Madrid. I think the business they've done this summer has been really good. We'll get to that in a little bit. Barcelona is still struggling financially to register players, so we don't really know what that squad is going to look like, when the season starts this weekend. So they've signed some players that they can't register, and again, we will get to that shortly. So I'm not really sure kind of, what the squad is going to look like, how the harmony in that squad is going to look, but I just really like what Atletico has done this summer. I think their business is really good. And I think they're kind of priming themselves, if it's maybe not this season, maybe next season, to really push for the title.
You just said it right then and there, because again, Atletico Madrid have been doing some great business this summer, and I contemplated how can I logically pick somebody who's not Real Madrid. And I thought, well, maybe Atletico because of all their signings, but I think that they're going to need a year in order to get, everyone settled into the squad and things like that. So for me, I think that, there's going to be somewhat of a title push, and hopefully for Barcelona's sake, for the reason of competitiveness that they're just about. But I do believe once again that Real Madrid will win it, but hopefully it's not in a landslide, and hopefully it is competitive because that's ultimately what we want to see. But I think that Real Madrid will do it again. Out in Italy's top division, it was Inter who took the league by storm last year en route to winning the Scudetto in an utterly dominant fashion. The battle for the remaining top positions was some of the best that we ended up seeing across all of European football. Gee, there have been a lot of moves so far this summer in Serie A, and as we gear up for this season, what do you foresee happening in the division, and who will be crowned champions of Italy?
So this is for me, this has been the toughest one to decide. I think a lot of teams have done good business. I don't think anyone has done good enough business to beat Inter Milan. I think they will retain the Serie A title. Nobody has signed that game changer, that game breaker. I just think, because of the fashion in which they dominated last year. It's not like it was a close title race where maybe bringing in another 10-goal striker can change things. Like, they dominated, and I just don't think they've lost a step, and I don't think anyone has gained that step on them. So I think Inter will retain.
I love that line of thinking, and you make so many good points. There is some time left in the window, so who knows? Maybe that massive signing is going to come through. Is it likely to happen? Probably not, but it could. I think Inter is going to be right there. I also think Juventus is going to be right there. I think that Napoli even has a chance to be right there, especially with Conte at the helm now. I think that what can be said for Serie A this summer essentially is that it can be incredibly tight. However, the team that I'm going to say that's going to win it is AC Milan. I think that there just might be something there for them that is going to get them over the line. I don't know if it's going to be with Morata going there. I don't know if it's going to be with the managerial status and prowess that's there. But I just feel like AC Milan is going to find their way to a title, and what a battle it would be if those were the top two teams, Inter and Milan. That would be something.
Oh, like the scenes at the San Siro for those two games, especially whatever the return leg, I guess would be probably like the picture of like Materazzi and the other guy. Yeah. You know exactly what picture I'm talking about. I'll edit it in here. Like that's the type of scenes I would imagine. It would be fantastic.
Yeah, and I know actually one time on Full Time here we actually brought up that scene. It's just so historic. It's one of the most famous photos in football, I feel. But if it did come down to those two teams, which it very well could, in fact, I think that would be sensational. But you'll take Inter and I will take AC Milan. In Ligue 1, PSG worked their way to the title last season despite having some unsettling and nervy moments along the way. The expectation for the French Giants is to always win the league, and last year they certainly achieved that. Gitano, what is set to happen this season in Ligue 1, and will PSG win it again even without Kylian Mbappe?
Realistically, they should. Mbappe removed, they're still far and away the best team in Ligue 1, and it's really not even close. Will they maybe struggle a little bit to find some rhythm without him? Maybe. But I think give them a couple months, they'll kind of get their heads screwed on right, and they should run away with this with ease.
Yeah, I think so too. I hate to make that the cop-out answer, but I'm also going to take PSG. But dark horse for me this year, I'm going to say Lyon. I think that something is going to be there for them, but ultimately PSG, I do believe as well, it is going to be theirs for the taking. In the Bundesliga, we experienced something unprecedented last season, and that was Bayer Leverkusen winning the title after going the entire season unbeaten, something that had never been done in the history of top-flight football in Germany. After a record-setting campaign, the champions, Bayer Leverkusen, would go on to come second in the Europa League, and they also went on to win the German Cup. That would mean Bayern Munich would have to settle for second place in the Bundesliga, a position that they had not been familiar with since 2011-2012, which was the last time that they didn't win the league. The battle for the European places in the Bundesliga was tightly contested this past season, which made for great entertainment for fans across the world. Gitano, last season was absolutely unbelievable in terms of what we saw in the Bundesliga, largely because of Bayer Leverkusen. But what exactly can we expect this year? And ultimately, this time around, who's going to be the champions of Germany?
So I'm going to start by saying I think Bayer Leverkusen are going to retain. I don't think it'll be an invincible season or kind of in the dominant fashion that they won it last year by any stretch. I just look at that squad. They haven't lost any of the major players that they were expected to lose. Florian Wirtz is still there. Grimaldo and Frimpong are still there. Granit Xhaka is still there. Like all the key pieces are still in play. But then outside of that, I look at kind of what the other clubs around them have done, and Bayern with Vincent Kompany in charge, his first. I don't want to disrespect Burnley, but his first major job in charge in Europe. That squad's kind of old and in transition. So I think that's kind of a potentially volatile mix of an inexperienced manager, a not quite harmonious squad. I don't know if they're gonna if he's gonna be able to get that sorted out kind of in time. I think long term the project will be fine. I just don't know if they'll be able to win the title this year. Dortmund having lost their manager and a couple of key players, Marco Reus, Mats Hummel's gone. As old as they were, still pretty key players. I don't know if they've done the business enough to kind of keep a title charge going, but I will say I expect Bayer Leverkusen and RB Leipzig to kind of make a real good push here. I think I've liked their business this window. I just can't look past Xabi Alonso and that squad. I think they're just one of the best teams in Europe. Again, didn't lose anyone major, didn't really bring in anyone major, but I think the kind of stability there, kind of given all the chaos around them, is going to be enough for them to retain.
I like that line of thinking. I really do. And I do think the likes of RB Leipzig can be there. I don't know if I have as much confidence in Dortmund now. They have had some key departures. Stuttgart, I think, is going to be in the mix as well. I strongly believe that. This one has been really, really tough for me to pick. But I am going to say that Bayern is going to win. I know that Leverkusen, as fantastic as they are, like you said too, you make so many good points about them. They haven't had many key departures, in fact, maybe if at all. So I think that they're going to be there just about. But I think that Vincent Kompany going into that club, I think he's so demanding, as you know, and I think that his style of football is going to resonate with that group. And I think that they are just going to squeak the title over Leverkusen, who I believe will come second. So I can't wait for the Bundesliga because I think it's going to be a really, really, really awesome season there. And finally, the English Premier League kept us on the edge of our seats last season, as it so often does. Manchester City went on to win their fourth straight Premier League title, with Arsenal providing a push on the champions until the final match day. Liverpool kept it close until the last few match days as well, and the remaining European places, as was the theme throughout Europe's Big Five last season, were also tightly contested. Gitano, we have yet another spectacular season on the horizon. Your Manchester City will be going for 5 in a row, the drive for 5, if you will. Arsenal is firmly in the hunt for a third straight season, and there will be other clubs who just might be knocking on the door. So along with what you can say for the upcoming Premier League season, as well as your Manchester City, what do you think is going to be happening here? What we're going to do as well, we're going to pick a top 6, and of course, the 3 teams that we also believe are going to get relegated. So with all that being said, the floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, I expect a long season. Again, it's not going to be something wrapped up in March, but as much as fantastic, and as I'll say it a million times, as fantastic as the Centurion season was, like, it's just slightly less fun when it's when you've got it wrapped up in March. As much as I hate I'll bitch about it when I talk about how nervous I am every week, kind of in the run in there. Like, it's the best. It's the best, and because I'm not in it right now, I can say that. Cut to April. And we're complaining about a City Arsenal title race where both of us are stressed out every weekend. Like, different story. But I'm super looking forward to it. I think it's going to be crazy tight. How do you want to approach top 6? Do you want to just go like 6-1 here each, or?
Yeah, you know what? Why don't you give 6-1, and then I'll do 6-1, and then I'll hand it back to you for the relegation, and then I'll do the same.
All right. So 6th place, I've got Spurs. I like what Andrew's doing there. I think that project is kind of well underway. I don't think they're anywhere near challenging for top 4. But I think top 6 is probably kind of a realistic aim for them at this point. Done great business. A couple other teams around them kind of faltering with their business. I think 6 for Spurs, probably a safe bet. And 5th, a little bit of a resurgence. I think Newcastle. I think last season domestically for them was a bit of an anomaly. I think the kind of pressure and stress of the Champions League kind of got to them early in the season, and they never really recovered from that domestically. But that squad's really, really good, solid, kind of pretty much all the way through. I think they've got it kind of figured out. In the league, the back half of their campaign was pretty good. So I think without kind of European competition this year, they'll probably be a little more stable in the league. 4th, I'm going with Liverpool. Again, they still have a lot of really good key pieces: Salah, Van Dijk, Alisson. I'm just not quite sure about the new manager, how quickly kind of his tactics, his thinking is going to kind of adapt to the squad, how they're going to adapt to that. So yeah, 4th for them. I still think comfortably a European spot, and definitely a Champions League spot. In 3rd, I'm going to take Villa. I just think Unai Emery's got them playing phenomenally. That squad is super deep now. Like it's not Newcastle kind of had that issue last year where the squad there was not enough depth to really push in Champions League and domestically and your domestic competitions. But this Villa squad's super deep, so I think that they shouldn't have an issue in that sense. Whether they go far in those competitions is a whole other story. But in terms of being able to rotate guys, having that depth, I think they'll be fine. 2nd place, I have Arsenal, and I've got City winning 5 in a row. I think it's going to be, again, down to the final day. I think Arsenal have done great business in this window. I still think they need a striker if they're really, if they want to win the league. You can't be relying on, Gabby Jesus as a winger and Kai Havertz in a false 9, to win you a league against Erling Haaland and Kevin De Bruyne and Phil Foden. And I could go on and on. I just think you need a striker if you're going to win the league. And if by the time the window ends, I think it's September 2nd, the window shuts. If they go out and get that that big striker, then City are in real trouble. But as it stands right now, I think City will retain. We'll go 5 in a row, and then Pep can leave, and I'll be happy.
You know what? Your analysis is fantastic, and we always say it all the time, right? It's the number one quote that we say here on Full Time is football, so anything can happen. So like, a team that we collectively might not have in our top 6 could pop out of nowhere, mount the challenge. We never saw Villa coming last year, and look at the job that they did. So anything can happen. I'm going to start with, in 6th place, I'm going to say Aston Villa. I know that you have them finishing as high as 3rd. I just think that, with all of this new introduction now of football, obviously them playing in the Champions League, I think it's going to be a lot for them this season. I don't know what else is going to happen this window and what have you, but I think that Unai Emery is an exceptional manager. I think they'll get 6th, and I think that they will do very well in Europe. 5th, I'm going to say Chelsea. And I was very reluctant to do so just because we're going to talk a little bit later about the size of their squad and how that's, able to be managed. But when you take a look at the quality of players that are in that team, not maybe all the way through, but in patches, you almost wonder to yourself, how could it, they not be a good team? So I'm going to peg them to be 5th. I might end up eating my words on that one later, but I'll give them a shout for 5th. 4th place, also might have to eat my words on this one because I certainly had to last year, Manchester United. I'm going to put them in 4th. I think that was some of the guys that they have brought in this window. If they can keep their squad healthy and fit, that's, again, I'm not obviously a Manchester United fan by any stretch of the imagination, but their injury crisis last year was a real thing. I think if they can keep their squad relatively healthy and fit, I think that they'll get into the top 4. Liverpool, for me, is going to finish 3rd. I think Arne Slot's going to make his impact at Liverpool. Probably going to be a bit of a difficult transition period, but I think that he still will do well. And then when it comes down to the final 2, what I could see realistically happening in my head is that City get the 5th one, Pep goes out in a blaze of glory, and he's just crowned as like the best manager of all time and all the rest of it. However, I can't bet against my team because I just don't have the heart to do it. So I'm going to say City 2nd and Arsenal 1st. That being said, like I said, your analysis is spot on. I'm a realist. If we don't bring in a striker, I think that we're in trouble. I also think that we also need one more player in midfield, which we're going to talk about in the summer transfer market news. So if those things don't happen, I take the opportunity to change my pick later on, but I'm going to say City second, Arsenal first. So we do have a lot of the same ones, a couple of different ones, but I think that the battle in the Premier League for the top 6 and for the title ultimately is going to be unbelievable. And for the relegation, of course, 3 teams will inevitably go down at the end of the season. So, Gitano, in no particular order, what 3 teams do you see dropping down into the championship?
So I'm going to start with Southampton. I think they're going to kind of do this yo-yo for a couple of years. I think they have a very young squad. They're basically a seller club. That's how they exist. Unfortunately for them, that they sell their best players to top teams and have to reinvest that money. So I don't think they have enough quality to stay up this year. But like they'll still, when they go down next year, be still like one of the top teams in the championship. So I kind of expect them to yo-yo for a couple of years until they can maybe lock down a couple of key players. Ipswich Town, I don't think they have that Premier League quality. It's going to be similar to Luton last year, where it's just nice story, great to come up, but they're just nowhere near that level. And then Nottingham Forest, I think they're kind of rotating cast of players over the last few years, one of the highest spends in the Premier League. It just isn't contributing to kind of long-term success. It almost feels like every summer is like, how many guys we have to sign to stay up. And I feel like this might be the season that it catches up to them. And I feel like they'll panic and sign a bunch of guys in January, and just kind of collapse and get relegated.
Yeah, and again, you make a lot of good points there. I'm going to also say that, and again, this is in no particular order, but Ipswich, I think they're also going to go down in terms of comparison. Luton, I think, was in fact a good comparison. I'm also going to say Nottingham Forest. I didn't think that they were going to be particularly strong last year. I made that very well known right here on Full Time. They just about stayed up, but this year I think that basically it's all going to catch up to them. And then instead of Southampton, I'm going to go Leicester City. I think that they'll go down as opposed to Southampton. However, I can see that those two might interchange. But those 4 teams, Ipswich, Leicester, Nottingham Forest, and Southampton, I could see those 4 teams at the end of the season just kind of, battling it out and only one of them staying up. So I'll say Ipswich, Leicester, and Nottingham Forest to go down. But that's what's going to be happening there in the Premier League. Of course, the best league, in our opinion, of course, in all of Europe. And it won't be before long, before Europe's Big 5 and all European football kicks off. In fact, it starts this week, where subscriptions apply depending on where you might live. Do check out where you can watch all of Europe's best domestic football, may it be on DAZN, Fubo, Sportsnet, TSN, beIN Sports, or One Soccer. This is Daniel Scarpino and Gitano Gallo, and you're listening to Full Time on the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network. A reminder that Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. You can download and access the Pizza Portal app for any of the 2 locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Have a delicious hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. The summer transfer market goes on, and we will be highlighting some of the recent moves which have taken place in the world of football. The following transfer market news comes from The Guardian, so be sure to check them out as they provide up-to-the-minute transfer market news. First, it's Julian Alvarez, who goes from Manchester City to Atletico Madrid for $64.1 million. After 103 appearances and 36 goals for City, the World Cup and Copa America winner makes a big money move to La Liga. Gitano, in every way, this one is all yours, my friend.
Yeah, this is a personal heartbreaker. I loved him. I thought he was great. The joke among City fans was he was kind of the Aguero regen, just in terms of his skill set and how he played, and even just how he how he acted on the field. Like, it was some very weird coincidences there. But from a footballing perspective, he wants to be a striker. He wants to be the striker at a club, and unfortunately, he's always going to be behind Erling Haaland in that pecking order. There's nobody in the world who's going to be above him in that. He was actually City's 5th most used outfield player last year, but most of those minutes were in attacking midfield, somewhere where he didn't want to play. So you can't really blame him for wanting to move on to play in his natural position. He never really kicked up a fuss or stopped training or had any fights. He's wanted to leave, and perhaps even at Bayern Barca, his motto kind of has always been like, if you aren't happy here, you want to leave, like as long as we get a good enough offer, like see ya. But there's no point keeping an unhappy player around. So kind of it all worked out in that sense. And then on the business end, signing him for 14 million, selling him for 61. I think with add-ons, things rises to almost 90. So like, can't really argue with that. Won basically everything but a Carabao Cup and a Community Shield for City. Won both major international tournaments. With Argentina in that time. So just kind of, kind of a perfect stint. Kind of if you were to say like bring in a player for a couple of years, what do you want to happen? Score a bunch of goals, win a bunch of trophies, make the club a bunch of money. Like, can't really go wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And I also rate him as being a top player. I think he's going to do great for Atletico Madrid, but Pep has been known, and it's so nice too. You have to say that he never kicked up a fuss. There wasn't anything in the media or anything like that. Just behind closed doors, probably went into Pep's office and said, "Hey, look, you know what? I just want to be playing more in my natural position. If you can get the money for me, I'd like to go." And yeah, it's nice when kind of things work out in that way. Sort of a perfect storm for everybody involved in that situation. Dominic Solanke goes from Bournemouth to Tottenham for a fee of 55 million. Spurs bolster their attacking options with a move for the 19-goal striker and a record sale for the Cherries. Gitano, I think that this is a great move for Tottenham because, again, I think that Solanke's a fantastic striker. And this fee, by the way, can rise up to 65 million with add-ons. But what are you saying about this one?
I think this would have been a way better signing for Arsenal.
Yeah.
I think he's great. He's your 15, 20 goal Premier League striker, English, 26 years old. Like how Arsenal weren't even in on this is baffling. This to me, like this was the perfect signing for them. I think he's going to kill it at Spurs. He's always going to have the comparison to Harry Kane. English striker, Spurs, and he's not quite Harry Kane. Both like skill wise and like playing style. But I think if they wanted to replace Harry Kane, this was probably the best they were going to get. I think he's great. He's going to bang in 20 as long as he's healthy, and he's going to lead the line for Tottenham for years to come.
Yep, I totally agree. Tottenham certainly got a gem there, and I think he's going to do very, very well there under Ange. Pedro Neto goes from Wolverhampton to Chelsea for a fee of 54 million. The 24-year-old winger was presented to the Stamford Bridge crowd during a recent friendly match after signing a 7-year deal and a record sale for Wolves. Gitano, it's yet another signing for Chelsea as their squad size continues to increase. That said, I really like Pedro Neto. I think he's been an excellent player down the years. I know that he's had some injury issues and things like this, but I think it's as long as he can stay fit, I think that he can very well fit in there. But what do you think, sir?
Yeah, I think kind of two things can be true. He's a fantastic player. Getting him for under 60 million is a great fee. Yep. But just Chelsea don't need him. This is the 35th incoming permanent transfer since Todd Boehly took over in 2022. If you go back 35 transfers at Manchester City, that gets you to Aymeric Laporte coming in from Athletic Bilbao in January of 2018.
Wow.
Just like for context of just the sheer amount of players that Chelsea have brought in. And the issue is that there's not a lot of outgoings there. Like their squad is massive. I think they've got like 35, 36 senior players now. Like it is ridiculous.
Yeah, and I just don't know. Well, you're not going to keep a squad even if you have 18 players because you're always going to have to leave out a certain amount. So not everyone's always going to be happy. However, when you have that many players, I don't understand how it's even remotely possible that people can be kept happy in any sense of the word. So I picked Chelsea to come fifth. That's why I say I could very well eat my words because that thing can come crumbling down at any point in time. But they keep saying that it's a project. So we'll see if they can get an A+ in the future. I have no idea. Dani Olmo goes from RB Leipzig to Barcelona for 51 million. The star of Euro 2024 returns to Barca a decade after leaving the academy for Dinamo Zagreb, signing a 6-year contract. Gitano, Dani Olmo was exceptional this past summer at the Euros, as you and I both alluded to right here on our show, and now he is going to be at Barcelona. Will he succeed there?
He'll succeed there if they can register him, because they, as it stands, can't register him. because of La Liga's financial rules. I'm sure they will, pull some levers and, force some players out to get him in. But yeah, I just think, I don't understand wanting to like go to a club where you don't know if you're actually even going to play at this point in time. To me, that just baffles me. But I do think once he gets in, he's gonna be killer. Thinking of like him playing with like Pedri and Ilkay Gundogan and Gavi is just like that's a midfield right there. Like that is like it's not Xavi anymore. Is it Koeman back there? I can't even think of the manager right now.
Could very well. Well, no, it's not Xavi anymore. See that? I just know that he was the Elko.
Yeah.
I don't tend to be honest.
Yeah, whoever the manager is has plenty of great options in the midfield, and I think adding Dani Olmo is just it's like sprinkles on top of the cherry on top of the ice cream. Like it's just
Hansi Flick.
Hansi Flick. Oh,
Yes.
Hansi Flick's gonna love Dani Olmo. That is like a Hansi Flick. Like he spent a lot of time in Germany. So he's not a German player, but he's got that kind of that German quality to him that you saw a lot of like the Bayern Munich players in that era of Germany. So yeah, I think he's gonna be killer there.
I think so too. Once he actually gets registered, to your point, I think he's gonna be fantastic, and maybe a bit of sentimentality to it because he was an academy player, and maybe that's why he wanted to go back. But I think that he's gonna do well there once he's in. Next is Joao Neves, who goes from Benfica to Paris Saint-Germain for 50.6 million. The dynamic teenage midfielder who attracted interest from Manchester United has officially signed a 5-year deal with PSG as the club continues to focus on recruiting young talent. Gitano, PSG put pen to paper for a player who I think is just fantastic. But what can you say for this one?
Yeah, I think again, like we've said this for like the past 3 transfer windows now, like last summer, the winter, and this one here. Like a lot of PSG signings aren't for right now, and John Evans is very good right now, but I think he's going to be absolutely phenomenal in 2 or 3 or 4 years. Still only 19 years old. To say the sky's the limit for him would be like an understatement. I think this kid can go supernova, especially with what we've already seen from him, at Benfica. I think this is just, a great transfer. It's not going to pay off maybe right now. I think he'll still be good. Like, don't get me wrong. He's going to be good now. But I think in a couple of years, he's going to be absolutely fantastic.
Spot on, indeed. He's certainly going to be, I'm sure he'll hit the ground running at a good clip, but in a couple of years, I think he's going to be a real world beater. Emil Smith-Rowe goes from Arsenal to Fulham for a fee of 34 million. The Gunners Academy graduate and England international signs a 5-year deal after limited game time last season. Gitano, I have so many thoughts on this one. For me personally, I always felt that there was a spot for Emil Smith-Rowe in Arsenal's team and in Mikel Arteta's plans. There was a reason he gave him the number 10 shirt. Unfortunately, I don't want to say he was plagued with injuries. I think that's too extreme, but he did pick up a lot of injuries basically after the couple of COVID seasons, and he never really or truly found himself back into the rotation. Did get the odd game here or there as a sub, got in the FA Cup and Carabao Cup games, but, never really got that run of games that he would have wanted to. However, I do want to make a mention that this is a club record signing for Fulham, and it's Arsenal's biggest sale of a player since Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain was sold to Liverpool for 35 million. So there's a lot going on there. I do wish him the best. I have always liked him since, again, I thought during the COVID seasons he was just fantastic. But yeah, I hope that he succeeds because he's just such a great young professional, and I'm interested to know your thoughts.
Yeah, I think Fulham are running away like bandits with this one. I think he's a great player, still only 24. Plenty of time for him to kind of grow and improve. But to your point, like a lot of players in kind of the post-COVID seasons, like really took steps and kind of earned what Mikel Arteta had given them. We just didn't really see that from him, and again, a lot of the time it was because he was injured. So he just kind of fell, to me anyways, he just fell behind the curve at Arsenal. He was never really going to kind of earn that spot back, just given what had happened. So I think a fresh start at 24 years old at Fulham is, as good as he could hope for.
Yeah, and I think it is best case scenario for him. I'm sure in his heart of hearts he would have wanted to stay at Arsenal because he's Arsenal through and through. But you have to do what's best for your career, and I wish him the best of luck, certainly. Alexander Sorloth goes from Villarreal to Atletico Madrid for 29.8 million. Sorloth scored 23 goals for Villarreal last season and joins Atletico Madrid as a replacement for Alvaro Morata. Gee, do you like this move?
He's just a massive Norwegian striker who bags goals. I love it. And like you said, you just mentioned, replacing Alvaro Morata with Sorloth and Julian Alvarez. That is like upgrading is like not the right term for that. That is like supercharging your attack. I think those two are going to be killer together. We've already seen kind of what Julian Alvarez can do with a different Norwegian, striker in front of him. I think they're going to have that same dynamic. I think they are going to kill it together. I think both of them fantastic signings.
Yeah, watch out for Atletico Madrid, to your point, this season, because I think that's one of many great signings that they have made, with possibly some more to come. Artem Dovbyk goes from Girona to Roma for a fee of 28.1 million. A year after joining Girona, La Liga's top scorer last season moves to Serie A, where he will wear the number 11 shirt. Gee, two questions here. How big of a blow is this to Girona, and how big of an addition is this for Roma?
Yeah, so I mean, we didn't really mention Girona when it came to predicting La Liga, and that's kind of the reason they've lost him. They've lost Savinho. They lost Alex Garcia. Like, they've just basically what you don't want to happen to a title contending team happened to them, which is unfortunate. But they lost a lot of their key parts. I think they're going to maybe not get relegated this year, but they'll finish lower mid-table. But for Roma, what a steal! I think he's just going to be killer there. There's just something about Roma that they get a different level out of players. I don't know if it's the history of the club, the crowd, but there's just something about that club it's just different gravy. Like, you just think of like Daniele De Rossi and like Francesco Totti, they just elevate themselves to they find a different level. I think he's going to absolutely kill it. Still only 27 years old, so his prime is right ahead of him. I think he's going to terrorize Serie A for the next few years.
I think so too, and I want to put my hand up to say I feel almost disrespectful in the Serie A conversation. I said that it's going to be competitive, and I still stand by that, but I actually should have put Roma right into the conversation. I didn't. They've been so active this window, and this is a huge signing for them. And we've been talking about in our show some of the other signings that they've made, so watch out for Roma. And again, I should have mentioned them earlier. But yeah, I think they're going to be fantastic. And I also think that Artem Dovbyk is going to do a real job there. Nicholas Füllkrug goes from Borussia Dortmund to West Ham United for 27 million. The Hammers seal a 4-year deal for the prolific striker. After a rather long statement to the press, Füllkrug ended his press conference saying in a statement, quote, "I have a very good feeling," end quote. Gitano, does this sort of feeling resonate with you from a West Ham point of view?
He just screams Brexit 4-4-2, big man winning headers, and I love it for West Ham. Like, it's just a very West Ham side. Like, they tried like smaller, more skillful. Not that Füllkrug isn't skillful. They tried a different type of player up front the last few seasons. Just hasn't worked. I think just getting a big man who's going to be a dominant aerial presence, can score with both feet, can win headers. I think this is going to be massive for them. I think he's going to be like an instant cult hero for West Ham. I think he's going to bag a ton of goals for them. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, 18 goals for him this season, 12 of them from corner kicks and free kicks, just heading them in, I think.
Exactly.
So I think it is a good signing as well. Mason Greenwood goes from Manchester United to Marseille for a fee of 26.7 million. After a spell on loan at Getafe, the 22-year-old who had serious charges against him dropped last year will now leave Old Trafford for good. Gitano, Mason Greenwood was meant to be the next best thing for England and Manchester United. But obviously, with what we're going to talk about here in a minute, the magnitude of what he did and ultimately what happened in his case, he's now trying to have to reignite his career. And that's going to happen in a place other than Manchester United, and it's going to happen outside of England. But I'm going to hand it over to you now to shed some light on this.
Yeah, so he was kind of supposed to be the next big thing out of United's academy, but in January 2022 he was arrested and later charged with attempted rape, controlling and coercive behavior, and assault occasioning actual bodily harm. The Crown Prosecution Service said the charges were discontinued after key witnesses withdrew their involvement and quote-unquote new material came to light. But to be real, the world saw those pictures. They watched that video, heard the audio. it was, disgusting isn't the right word for it. It's awful the fact that he even gets to continue being a professional footballer after that, if we're going to be totally honest. He obviously can't do that in England now with these charges. Marseille actually had a friendly game in England. He obviously wasn't allowed to travel with the squad for that. I just think it's in kind of all facets of it, it's just terrible the fact that we even have to continue to talk about him after what happened, because he should not have a career at this point. But yeah, off to Marseille for kind of a fresh start, if you want to call it that. Obviously, what he did is going to you're never going to get a fresh start from that. That's going to kind of carry with him, with whatever he does wherever he goes. But yeah, that's kind of all I got for it.
Yeah, and I don't really feel like there's anything else to add apart from that everyone heard the audio. We saw the pictures. We know ultimately what happened. And he's going to go try and reignite his career elsewhere. And that's pretty much it for that. Robin Lenormand goes from Real Sociedad to Atletico Madrid for 25.4 million. Atletico Madrid confirmed the arrival of the Euro 2024 star center back. Gitano, more business here for Atletico Madrid, and how do you think that this signing is going to bode for them?
I think this is great. I think they've kind of been crying out for a star center back for a while, since Diego Godin left in 2018. They kind of never really replaced that presence at the back, and I think that Robin Lenormand is going to be that guy for them. 27 years old, so his nowhere near his prime as a defender. I think he is just going to be kind of a staple for Simeone, and I think that they can rest a lot of their kind of defensive questions kind of on him, knowing that he is going to kind of be the answer for a lot of that. I think it's going to be great for them.
Yep, I give it a thumbs up indeed. Crescencio Somerville goes from Leeds United to West Ham United for a fee of 25 million. Last season's Championship Player of the Year takes the next step by signing a 5-year deal with the Hammers. I personally think that this is a good move for the player. I think that this is a good move for Leeds for the money that they're getting. And I think it's a good move for West Ham for the type of player that they're getting to, again, new manager, different type of team, maybe a different outlook. I think that everybody wins here. But what are your thoughts on it?
I think as long as he can cross the ball to Fulkrug, they're going to be just fine. They're going to love him. But for real, I think 22 years old, definitely time on his side in terms of career. I think this is a great step for him going from the Championship to West Ham. No disrespect to West Ham, but they're not going to sit there and play kind of a Pep Guardiola press or anything like crazy. Like, it's going to be very kind of simple tactics. And again, I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I just think coming from the Championship to the Premier League, like, it's not going to be asking him to do anything like crazy or like learn anything too kind of overwhelming. I think a lot of it's going to be playing on the wing, stay wide, beat your man, cross the ball, like just nice and simple for him. I think it's kind of a perfect start to his Premier League career.
Yeah, I think so too. It's a good step for him. I think, again, as basic as you might like it for West Ham, but basic can be effective. I strongly believe that, and there's more than one way to win a game of football. So I think that he's going to do well there, and I think that West Ham too. I know we haven't really talked about them too much this show in terms of our predictions and stuff, but I think they're going to be okay this season, to tell you the truth. And as always, we did not cover every single transfer that has taken place this window. G, are there any that have we left out, that have caught your eye as of recent?
Slight cop-out. It's a loan signing, but Xavi Simons from PSG back to RB Leipzig. He was one of their key players last year. I think kind of reacquiring him, after the Dani Olmo loss, is going to be massive for them and kind of staying competitive. And also, Xavi Simons has kind of made it pretty clear that he doesn't want to be at PSG. So I think this is a great chance for him to, potentially, get a permanent deal from this at RB Leipzig or somewhere else. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, and I like that showed indeed. I think that's all said and true for sure. There's a few as well that caught my eye that we didn't get the chance to talk about. Matheus Sul went from Juventus to Roma for 21.9 million. As I said, Roma doing some excellent business, been very active this window. I think that's another good signing for them. In a different way, Philip Jorgensen goes from Villarreal to Chelsea for 20.7 million. That's another 7-year deal. I don't particularly think that's a great move because, again, Chelsea's squad is huge, and maybe apart from Villarreal getting some added spending money, it's not great. And Martin Terrier goes from Rennes to Bayer Leverkusen for 18.5 million. I really like the move. He's an adaptable striker. And I think that in order for Bayer Leverkusen to be competitive, this being a City fan, you can't just do the same thing season in, season out, because people twig on pretty quick. So I think that that's going to really help Leverkusen be competitive this season. And as the summer continues, you can get all of the biggest transfer market news right here on Full Time. And now it is time for a local, regional, and national soccer update. Locally here in the city of Sault Ste. Marie, playoff soccer has commenced both men's and women's divisions. Playoffs started last week and will continue right through until the final week of August. In youth soccer, teams will not have playoffs, but instead have their league games stretched out in lieu of an added competition. This is different to indoor soccer here in Sault Ste. Marie, where all divisions at youth level do compete in playoffs. Gee, it's exciting times here as men's and women's teams compete for the final trophy of the summer, and youth players getting their final couple weeks of footy before moving indoors, which will happen relatively soon. What can you say for all the happenings right now, my friend?
Yeah, it feels like we just talked about the beginning of the season, like last week. The indoor seasons, and not in a bad way, but it always seems to kind of drag on. Like it's a very long season, lots of games. The outdoor season just seems to fly by. Of course, being this time of year playoffs, our games just, not that we're too intense about our games, but we do step it up that little bit. It is men's rec in Sault Ste. Marie, we get that. But you add the word playoff before a game, and all of a sudden, the intensity is kind of ups the level. The group chat, ups the level. Everyone's, getting ready to go to war. Super exciting time. Hopefully we don't have to run into you guys until potentially the final. That would be kind of my ideal scenario for us. But yeah, it's just a fantastic time.
Yes, most definitely. And it's going to be the final couple of weeks where our city fields are packed. And yeah, like you said, the summer has just been flying by as things now come to their inevitable close. And in regional competition, it was the Sudbury Star Cup that just concluded this past weekend in Sudbury, Ontario, where teams across the province met up in 3 different divisions to compete in the men's tournament. Gitano, this is one of the, and I didn't know this up until last night when I left the tournament because my team got to compete in it, and we fortunately ended up winning it. This is one of the oldest tournaments in Ontario. It began back first in 1921. I am, like I said at the top of the show, I'm incredibly sore, incredibly tired, played 4 games in 2 days. But despite that, it was an incredible tournament. And we highlighted last month on our show the Coppa di Giovanni soccer tournament right here in Sault Ste. Marie. So I feel like it's only fitting that we highlight this one, as it's another Northern Ontario city who hosted a fantastic tournament. So how much credit, Gitano, can we give regionally here to our area in Northern Ontario for what we're doing with soccer? Because for me, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, you just stole the word right out. I was going to say it's fantastic. 1921, that's older than a lot of domestic cups in Europe. That's crazy. City were only founded in 1894. That's not a far distance away. That is just insane. Even when you said it to me before we record, I kind of had to get a double take of 1921. That is incredible. I feel bad that I didn't know about it until kind of the last couple of years. Obviously, my team we don't travel for it, but having heard we've had players from our team, I could travel with you this season. It definitely feels like one of those tournaments where I now, not that I have to play in it, but I really want to play in it. That's a historic competition.
Yeah.
I really do now want to play in it. And I think to kind of have something like that, obviously as historic as it is, or having the Coppa Giovanni, which doesn't have the history, in terms of years, but kind of has this prestige of kind of it's the shiny new trophy, for us. I think it's just it's phenomenal. It kind of gives a little more for guys to want to do. If you want to, I joked about, we're just rec league, but if you want to, push yourself and be competitive, the fact that there's actually competitions that you can, put your team in and push yourself and go and try and compete in, I think that's just fantastic. I know we've used that word a bunch of times now in this segment, but still, it's just amazing for teams in this area, in Northern Ontario, kind of isolated from there's probably tournaments in Toronto and the GTA, and kind of isolated from all that, even at the youth level. So for everyone to kind of have a different kind of trophy for us, for kind of this area, different competition to compete in, I think it's just fantastic.
It really is. And what I would say ultimately is don't sleep on Northern Ontario soccer because there's a lot of good things happening here. Even Sudbury has a League One team now. League Two, maybe, in fact. They're trying to get promotion to League One, but there's a lot of really good things going on here in Northern Ontario. So, yeah, definitely don't sleep on us. And as excited as we are for what is occurring here with local soccer, we are equally as excited as to what is happening regionally and nationally at varsity level. It is the return of college and university soccer that so many fans across the province of Ontario and across our entire country of Canada are excited for. Right here in Sault Ste. Marie, it will be Algoma University competing in the OUA, which stands for Ontario University Athletics. They will have the opportunity to compete against the very best that the province has to offer throughout the next 3 months. All the while, schools across our nation will be competing for the next 3 months to be crowned champions of their respective regions, with the opportunity to be crowned U Sports champions at nationals in November. Gitano, let's start by acknowledging how exciting a time this is for players and schools across our country, and specifically, like I said, can't sleep on the North, right here at Algoma University.
Yeah, I mean, specifically for Algoma U, kind of the steps the program has taken in the last couple of years have just been massive. From no offense, I can make fun of my sister out here as well. Kind of your era of barely scoring goals. A scoreless draw was almost seen as a win. Kind of to where it is now. Where you guys are like these teams are competing. Going out to actually win. Yeah, and I don't need to sound rude when I say like going out to like actually win games, like being competitive. I didn't see them play, but I heard some stories about the Algoma U team in our indoor league and how fantastic they were. Kind of seeing like those steps that they were giving you guys a good run for your money, like really pushing kind of RD1, and you feel like that's a serious step from kind of even last summer. A couple of games, so they were good, but kind of loose and kind of disjointed. But hearing kind of the stories and how they're kind of coming together as a fantastic team, it's huge for the city, huge for the players. The city kind of enjoys having something to latch onto. In that sense, like the Hounds, when they suck, nobody cares. But as soon as the Hounds get good, everyone's a Greyhounds fan. The building's packed. I think it's going to be kind of the same, not obviously not to the same level, but the same kind of hype around this Algoma U team. Once kind of the city realizes how good they are, I think the city's going to get real excited, and I think that the players are going to kind of rise to that level. I expect it to be a really great season for them.
I think so too, and there's a lot of talk around the province for Algoma University men's soccer specifically about how good they are. And again, there's League One players. There's players that are coming from out of country that are playing here. It's a very good moment for Algoma, and I'm really looking forward to watching those guys play this season. And yeah, I think it's going to be fantastic because this will be their best team that they've ever had. This past indoor season, it was the first time that we had ever lost to an Algoma University team. And again, I used to play, and we used to have target games circled on the calendar of who we could compete with. Now there's no more target games because they could beat everybody, So it certainly has changed, and they, like we say all the time, taking the right steps in the right direction. Takes a lot of time, but patience ultimately the name of the game. And definitely looking forward to watching the Algoma men and the Algoma women. Looking forward to watching them this season as well. And for those that have followed our show down the years, they will know that we have highlighted another school right here in our own city, which was Sault College, who have competed in the sport of soccer in the OCAA, which stands for Ontario College Athletics Association. Unfortunately, the decision was taken this spring for Sault College to fold their soccer program. So we won't be able to see any college action here in the Sault any longer. Gee, from when I was a kid, and I know that you're in the same boat as me, Sault College here was always a program locally, and they were a staple in the indoor soccer realm of things in the Sault. And they got to compete every year regionally and provincially in the OCAA ranks at the indoor level, of course. Now, unfortunately, that's all said and gone. There will not be any Sault College soccer in any way, shape, or form anymore. So, bit of a somber moment here for that aspect of soccer, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a big loss for the city. You kind of hope that the people and the players, the people involved in that team are kind of able to make that transition. Hopefully the ideal thing would be kind of to Algoma, kind of feed into that program. But yeah, it's a big loss for the city, big loss for the college. It's kind of from kind of a college business standpoint, like you've just lost kind of a draw to your college, not having that team. And yeah, I never, in kind of the era of indoor soccer that you're talking of, I never played. I didn't get into soccer till way later, but I do remember going to watch my sister play in her leagues at Sioux College, rather, in their gym. So like for me, like indoor soccer has always just been linked to Sioux College. Like that's just the link in my head. Like as much as great as the WEC is, like my first thought when I think of like playing indoor soccer is at Sioux College. So it's kind of a shame that they won't exist anymore. Hopefully in some time the program comes back at some level. But yeah, just sucks to see them go.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, it's one of those weird ones, like you know exactly how to feel, but you almost don't know how to feel. It's like something leaving, which yeah, ultimately we don't necessarily know the reasons why we're not there, but it is a shame when something has to go when it's so historic, and it's certainly helped so many people down the years. Sioux College, however, is introducing the sports of volleyball and football. We should mention that, of course, and those are set to begin in the upcoming calendar year. So we can be excited for new sports in our area, even though that we won't have men's and women's soccer. We will have volleyball and we will have football. So some new additions, Gitano, that we can get excited for, and folks in our community can go to watch, of course. And jumping back to Algoma University here, G, they have their home opener, which is incidentally their season opener, on Saturday, August 31st and Sunday, September 1st. The games will take place at Superior Heights Soccer Field. Both days will see the women kick off at 1 o'clock and the men kick off at 3:15. Both games will be played against the Western University Mustangs. So it's another big season on the rise for the university. Gitano, how important might it be for folks to get out to support our local athletes and catch some of the best soccer that our province has to offer?
Yeah, I think home opener, season opener, like that is like the weekend to catch them. I think the hype is going to be kind of outside of if they take a deep run at nationals. Like I think the hype is going to be kind of at an all-time high here. I feel like it's good, especially a lot of players from out of city, out of country coming in, like kind of show that support immediately. I think that would be just kind of massive for them to kind of really feel kind of the energy and the love that the city has for soccer and this team. So yeah, I would 100% encourage people to get out this opening weekend. I'll probably try and get to at least one of the games, hopefully all of them. Yeah, I think it should be a hell of a weekend though.
Without doubt. And if you can't make that one, there's going to be more to come. We're going to highlight all of that in our show. And of course, for full schedules, you can visit www.oua.ca under the soccer tab. You can also visit www.algomathunderbirds.ca for men's and women's soccer schedules. And as the season progresses, we will be able to highlight for you all of the happenings for Algoma University soccer and for the biggest soccer news across the OUA and U Sports. This is Daniel Scarpino and Gitano Gallo, and you're listening to Full Time on the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network. A reminder that Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. You can download and access the pizza portal app for any of the 2 locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Have a delicious hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Full Time. As we wrap up today's show, we want to send our thanks to all of you for tuning in to another episode. Your support is very much appreciated. G, tonight, well done, my brother.
Yeah, well done to you as well. It feels so nice to like have a Monday that doesn't feel like a Monday because we're doing the show. It's a fantastic feeling. It feels like we just wrapped up last season, prepping for the season upcoming. Do you know off the top of your head who Arsenal have this weekend?
I don't. However, I can certainly check right now. I wanted to say that they had Bournemouth, but I don't think that that's true. They have Wolves.
Oh, that should be fun.
Yeah, and you guys got Chelsea.
Yeah, so we don't know which of the 36 or 38 players are even going to be in the squad. So it should be an interesting one. Hopefully not a kind of a title deciding clash on the opening weekend. That would be ideal. But yeah, should be a great opening weekend. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. And I'm so thankful I'm not a Chelsea fan, or that neither of us are Chelsea fans on the show, because now we don't have to do a predicted 11 for Chelsea, because that would. So.
Oh yeah, they've got like 4 of them. We could do predicted for their training.
Yes.
Team 1, Team 2, Team 3, Team 4. Like,
what a nightmare that must be to organize too. My God.
like, do they have to like bring in like extra staff to like deal? Like, you need 2 of everyone?
I think so. There's got to be like a management team for every group of 11. You're a part of group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4, and here's your manager for there, and there. It's got to be.
Yeah. Do they need 4 separate drone operators for that, or like?
I don't know. I know that could help out. But yeah, no, that's what's going to be happening this weekend. Really looking forward to the startup of Europe's Big Five, specifically with the Premier League. That's where our attention will be drawn to. And a reminder to our listeners that the next episode of Full Time will be recorded the week of August 26th, 2024. In that show, we will look at Europe's Big Five and how things have started out there. We'll look at the MLS. That'll be just getting started again after the Leagues Cup. We'll take a look at the summer transfer market, and we'll have a peek one final time for the summer at local soccer. As always, we'll keep everyone in the loop with all of the happenings in the world of football. For weekly content, make sure to hit like, follow, and subscribe to all platforms, both the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, and Podbean. For Gitano Gallo, my name is Daniel Scarpino, and thank you for tuning in to Full Time. We look forward to seeing you at kickoff next time back here on the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network. Best always.